Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to build one of those shotgun coils. We already have the cook pot, but we're going to change up the kind of coil that we're using, the condenser. So instead of using the normal jug, instead of using this like I always do, well, I'll still use this, but I'm going to make the shotgun style, and for that we can use a lot less copper. There's 10 feet of copper tubing in that coil over there, and there's only 2 feet here, and there's 2 feet here, and this is much smaller diameter. Now it doesn't matter, the main part is whatever coil that you have or whatever copper tubing that you have, go with that comes out of your still. But for the other part, whatever size that you can get that you can flex real easy, like around a pencil or even slightly wider, get that. Any size will do as long as you can easily flex it around. So this is like super easy to flex because it's such a small diameter. So what we're going to do first is we're going to get a general shape of what we need. And I went and I got, wow, this is 2 feet. That's probably too much. We're just going to bend it into a basic shape. That's not bad. And then we're going to take this and we're going to take a starting point . Now the good thing about this is you can, well, after you're done, you can still flex it around and aim the spout wherever you need to. Alright, use a screwdriver. And we're going to take this end, we're going to take this end, and we're going to start them really close together. And then all we got to do is take a real small hose clamp . Okay, a little bit of a struggle, but I got it on there. So that's what we start out with. When you're done, you'll bend this end up, and that'll be your water feed. And the rest of this, we just take this and we just loop it around. All I'm doing is just guiding this with my fingers while I take this end and I twist it around. Okay. Now we're going to take this other hose clamp. I'm going to slide it over. I'm going to pick a spot, any old spot, and tighten it down. Okay, so now I have that done. Now again, what I did was just I started hose clamping one end, and I found that if I took the end of the screwdriver out and just used the screwdriver like that, that worked much better. Almost killed my fingers trying to get that with just a normal screwdriver. So if you have a slightly larger diameter that you're using, it'll help a little bit. So again, just empty screwdriver or socket or wrench and do that like that. But once you get that tight, you just guide with one end while twisting it with the other, just like that. And that's how I did this whole thing. After I got all that on, I was going to put one hose clamp on, but then he said, no, I'll put one in the middle too. Now, this is just trial and error. So I didn't know how long 2 feet would go, so here the spacing is a bit large, and over here the spacing is quite a bit smaller. And when I saw with how much extra that I was going to end up with, I just started tightening up the coils. So something to consider, this should work just fine. This will work even better, so keep that in mind. And you probably want to try to get these as tight as possible. You'll probably be happy just getting this thing started at first, and then quickly bring in the spacing. So we have a nice tight hose clamp here, a nice tight hose clamp here, and a nice tight hose clamp here. So now the first part is almost done. Now all we got to do is we got to get this thing mounted. Now for my still, I have the pressure fitting, so we have to put that on there. And the olive. And once I get that tightened on with a wrench, that olive will stay on there. But right now it's a little loose, so we'll leave that. We'll be real gentle with that. Okay, so now the next thing that we have to do is we have to get our water line to the still. This is our water line. This curl is our water line. So now we're going to have an inlet and an outlet, and we're going to choose this end as the inlet to have the coldest water, and this end being the outlet for the water being warmed. Reason being is, it's progressive. We start here hottest, and then it should gradually cool more and more and more and more and more. By the time it gets to here, it should be ice cold. Same with the coil still. As the coil gets down, that part's heating first, and then the water at the bottom is still ice cold. So with that same principle, we want to make sure that this end is colder than this end. So now to feed the water, I have this. This goes on the end of the faucet. I saw this at the local hardware store, and I said, I need a piece of plastic tubing that'll fit over that. And they said, okay, there, that size will work. And that's perfect. So I said, alright, give me a chunk, and that's what I use for the coil still. And so all I did was hack off like just an inch or so of that. That's all we need to start. And then we don't need any special adapters. All you gotta do is just, okay, give me the next size hose that fits into that. There you go. There's the next size hose that fits into that. Then you say, give me the next size hose that fits into that. And they say, okay. There you go. Now give me the next size hose that fits into that. And finally, when you get small enough, and if you don't have an exact measure, an exact fit, like this is nowhere near an exact fit. We're going to use some of this. This is shoe goo. This is in the shoe area of your local store. I found this at Walmart. You might find it at Myers. A lot of stores should carry this in the shoe aisle. Pretty close to like the Dr. Scholl stuff, accessories or shoelaces and stuff. This is great stuff. This is like a combination of super glue and caulk. I have used this to fix numerous things. I've fixed a fan blade with this stuff, and it is still holding up. So what we will do is we will take all these ends and we'll just caulk them all together. We do not need, I don't like the look of this. This is just too long for all these ends, so I'm going to snip off a good length of each. And you never know, you might need a replacement. Now all I did was get a foot of each, and like 2 foot of this. And the guy asked me, hey, do you want a conservative foot or a liberal foot? And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. For the copper I said, give me a liberal foot. And I said you could go conservative on this. So we'll just take these ends. We want to make sure that this stuff doesn't fall apart, because it'll be under pressure. Take the excess, beat it around, covering both ends, and okay, that one's done. Trying to get some on the inside as I'm doing this. Now see, that wants to go a lot further, so we're going to let it. Make sure we have connections that stay. And then one more time, this one. Okay, there we go. We have our adapter. Now for this does not fit into there perfectly, but we don't need it to, because we have this stuff to fill the gap. And once this sets, it is permanent. Now, to ensure that we haven't blocked any ends, which this little end we could have very easily done, we'll just simply blow into one end. And see, we did have some blockage there. I'm going to also take an old chopstick. I use this for lighting my kerosene heater. That's why it's all black. Just want to smooth everything out. Okay, that is perfect. We will let this sit for a good couple hours, and it should be set well enough. You really got to let this set a day or two if you're like using the industrial properties of this. I mean, this is supposed to fill in the heel of your shoe. So you got to let that set for like 48 hours for that. But it will set much quicker than that for like a temporary setting. So we'll get back to that when it hardens. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to increase the amount of heat transfer from one to the other. So we have propane, we have some solder. Now yes, this is just regular solder. Nothing is going on the inside, it's all going on the outside, nothing's ever going to touch. However, you know, for safety reasons, by all means use the safer silver solder that contains zero lead. And you could also, you don't need to use a propane torch. I have been able to solder using a heat gun. They're about $20 at your local hardware store, and they will put out a lot of heat. This just happens to be the first thing that I found, and this is just for demonstrations. Now we shouldn't have to get solder on the whole thing. Solder isn't actually sealing anything. adding metal, and that extra metal will transfer heat from one pipe to the other much more efficiently. And that should be 10 times better than what it was. We shouldn't have to solder the whole thing. We just have a point at each of these loops where the heat is actually being transferred. Okay, so now I've decided to let this set overnight. It was dry enough in these spots, but here I thought it required a little more time. Now everything's good and set. Because remember, we're taking the pressure off your pipes, and then we're just reducing it down and reducing it down. So there's going to be a bit of pressure on here, so we want to make sure this doesn't come apart. So now we're ready to try this. So now we just take this thing, we go put it on the faucet, and then all we have to do is slide that on there, and maybe have some kind of a clamp on there, like a bread tie should do it, or a zip tie. Okay, so now we'll put this end on. It works just like a normal faucet with that on there, so it stays on all the time. Now, I'm going to cut exactly what I need. We're going to slide this over this. And I am just going to cut what I need. My stove is right over there, so I'm just going to cut the length that I need. Thread this through. Give myself a little slack. Run that up there. And around there. And finally to there. So we ran the hose, we've gone up here just to hold it. Come down here, we want to keep it away from the flame because of the melt. So now we'll just take this, wrap it around there once, twice, just to hold it in place. And that should be a good amount right there. So I'll cut it right there. I've got plenty of slack. Let's see if I got enough. Oh, I've got plenty to get back. Take that. And we just slide it over the copper as much as physically possible. And then we do the same with this one, with the other line, leftover line. And we just run this back into the sink. Now, for the moment of truth, let's see if it works. Woo, we had the leak. Just like I predicted we might. So, we will get a little reinforcement going on here. We'll try a zip tie. Shove that up as good as far as you can. If you want to put an actual hose clamp on here, by all means do so. I just wanted to see how much we could get away with. There, that should stay. There we go. And It's already running through and coming back out this side. We only need to turn this on just the trickle to keep it going. So if you keep it on full blast, you're asking for a leak. So now we'll turn that off for now. And what we'll do, we'll heat up the old standby here. I still use that just for the vinegar steaming. Just to get my coil cleaned out. Wait for this to steam up. Shouldn't take too long. Now if we want, we can remove the hose clamps now, because now we got solder holding everything in place. And we'll let it get to a full boil. Now see, the water dripping off there is just from the little bit of heat transfer that we're getting from the air. The little bit of air that the heat is getting absorbed into is resulting in that. If there was zero heat transfer, there would be zero condensation. Alright. Now we'll turn this down to a respectable distilling level again. And we'll turn the water on just a trickle. You see, instantly it cools off. And we are flowing. Ooh, yes. We have a lot of heat transfer now. Still a touch warm, but doing pretty good. Turn up. We only have the faucet on a trickle, so we'll just turn the faucet up a little bit more, get a little more water flowing through there. Oh yeah, that's ice cold now. Before you could feel the heat here and the cold in the smaller line. Now the whole thing is cold. We have lots of heat transfer going on. And up here, this is cold. We can dial our water onto just a trickle. Let's see what we're doing. That's doing pretty well. See, as long as you're cold, when you get down to here, you're good. Right up here, medium. And when we get up here, there is only a slight warmth to it. The water that's coming out of the end there, that's going down the drain. And it's cool, but it's not cold. We have plenty of heat transfer now. So now let's try cranking this up to full blast. Now we're still cold down here. Still cold-ish. The swirl line is cold. That's hot. The steam pipe is hot, but the coil pipe is doing well. And now the water that's coming off of here is warm. Not hot, not cold, but warm. So it is handling everything that we can put out. See what happens. We take this down to the barest trickle of water running through. Now see, that's getting hot. So we need a little more pressure. We just need a little bit of pressure. And again, yeah. So there you go. Now, since the initial design that I thought would work didn't work, and that was just that all we needed to was to coil that around there, all we need to do, and this will save you some pipe, and that's to get one pipe and put it on top of the other pipe, and we don't have to twist it. Just take one and lay it on the other and solder it at points like that, which you see work very well. So we can simplify this design even further. The amount of tubing that I have here could be a bit shorter. We could, let's see, feeling how cold that is. We probably could take about 10 inches off of it if you wanted. And it should still work good. But no, I like it. I like it the way it comes all the way down to here. But if we wanted to add more solder points to this, go up and down the bottom and add more additional solder points to it, the heat transfer will just increase, and you can shorten the pipe. So there we go. That is working at full bore, which is way above what you run the still at anyways, and it is keeping up with the still. There we go. Hot water. Make tea.